If you are going to make Panama part of your life, residency is going to be probably at the top of your list. And I want to introduce Rainelda Mata-Kelly, who is our go-to person for all things legal here in Panama. You already know her. She's going to tell you why obtaining residency can be easy. She's going to show you how. Rainelda Mata-Kelly, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, welcome to Panama. It's wonderful to have all of you here. And I know legal stuff is not the most fun. I cannot be like Jessica, unfortunately. It's not as fun as that. But I do have a ton of information to share with you. So here we go. Residency in Panama. Many of you have heard about the pensioner program, the friendly nations. And today we're just going to go through some of the highlights of the requirements. Definitely Panama offers most flexibility with many other countries, comparing with many other countries in Latin America, because you are allowed to obtain permanent residency here, and if you decide to move away for a little while, you can be up to almost 2 years away from Panama and you still keep your residency. So there's no minimum amount of months every year that you have to spend here. So that gives you a lot of freedom. Also, of course, immigration policies tend to vary from government to government slightly, not a huge deal of changes, but some tweaking happens. And we will be having elections on the 5th of May. So by the 1st of July, most likely we'll have a new government. We tend to elect the opposition government every time. We love them and then we hate them and we want to get rid of them. So likely there will be a new government, so let me know if you're coming later in the year or next year, touch base with me and I'll send you the updated information. So for all of the residency visas in Panama, this would be the requirements that are shared by all of them. One is to have a valid passport. I suggest that it has at least 9 months validity when you come to apply. You need a clean police record. This means in the case of the US citizens, that would be an FBI report. And for Canadians, that would be an RCMP report with fingerprints. When I say clean, yes, it ought to be absolutely clean. But if you have a little something in there, and if it's little, then I can probably help you to get immigration approval to have your visa presented anyway. So check with me if you think or remember that you have something in there that you forgot from your young days, and I'll let you know if it's something that we can work around. If you're coming with your spouse, we'll need also a copy of your marriage certificate, and that needs to be an updated copy, not the original. I can tell you how to get those, so no worries about that either. And once you're in Panama, you will need a health certificate. No need to worry about these. There's no big process of any kind. It's just a simple, your heart is beating, that's it, you're allowed to come in, okay? So don't worry about it. And okay, so let's see. These are the most popular visas that you may have heard of, some of them at least. There are a number of options. The best, the ones that I will be discussing in more detail today, are the pensioner residency visa, because it's the easiest, fastest, and least expensive. And I will also be touching on the friendly nations visa for those of you who are not receiving a lifetime pension yet. Okay, this is the one. Basically, the requirements are easy. You need to be receiving a lifetime pension, not just income. I can't, unfortunately, if you don't have a pension, this visa is not for you. You may have the income, but if it's not a pension, it doesn't work. The minimum necessary is $1,000. If you're coming with your spouse, $1,250 would be the minimum, but you can join. If you both are receiving pensions, they can be added up. And if you only have $1,000 between you, then that's okay, because we can supplement it with a bank account in Panama with a minimum deposit of $2,000. And if your pension falls below the $1,000 mark, say it's between $750 and $999, then you could supplement it by buying real estate in Panama. It would be a minimum of $100,000. So if you have, government pensions are really easy to process because the documentation is straightforward. If you're receiving a private pension, then the paperwork is a bit more complicated, and I need to really get into contact with you and your company provider, pension provider, to discuss exactly the documentation that we need, because we will need to show that you'll be receiving it at least 5 months, etc. The government tends to be a little bit more picky with private pensions because they want to make sure that they are for real and they're not just made up. Because there was a time when a lot of people were just literally making up their pensions to come and apply. So they had to become a little tougher on that. Okay, special benefits, you've heard, I'm sure if you're subscribers of IL, you have heard of all the discounts. One of the benefits is expedited approval. It's approved in less than 6 months. So in less than 6 months, you will have permanent residency. And it's granted indefinitely. It never needs to be renewed, provided you are either living in Panama or you come to visit at least once short of every 2 years. And you also get a discount that is solely for this visa, which is a reduction in the import duty of a car every 2 years. Or if you're buying locally a new car, that also applies, that discount applies for you. Plus, there's an array of discounts on medical services, legal services, restaurants, hotels, airline tickets, etc. And the good news is that these discounts, not the car one, but the others, are available to anyone who becomes a resident of Panama. If you come as a pensioner, then your age is not a problem. Whatever your age is, you're entitled to the discounts. If you come under a different residency option, like the Friendly Nations, and you are 55 or older for women and 60 or older for men, you still get those benefits. So no worries if you are coming under a different visa than the pensionado. Okay, this is a residency visa I'm not going to spend a lot of time speaking about. This is for high-end individuals whose time is really short and they have more money than time, is what I basically say. So, and they really need to do this really quickly, and they're willing to pay immigration $10,000 to get them a visa approved in 3 months. It requires a really big investment. For the moment, it's $300,000 in real estate up to October. After that, it will be minimum $500,000. And of course, you have other options there that are even more expensive. So again, not my favorite visa, as you will know, but I have to mention it because it's also a fast residency, so I had to include it with the pensioner visa. Now, these are other residency programs that have to do with either investment or if you have a profession that qualifies. And let's talk a little bit about how fast you can get them. As I mentioned before, with a pensioner visa, you get it in 6 months, and it's just one application. These other residency visas require 2 applications, and it takes you about 3 years to complete the whole process. You can be living in Panama during that time if you want, or you can fly back and forth as you wish. But it is important to know that it is 2 applications. So basically, you get approved for a provisional, and that is for 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, you apply again, and then you get the permanent. Now, Panamanian nationality or citizenship is something that I get a lot of questions about. It's not as easy to obtain as residency. Residency is really easy. Nationality is not. It takes a long time. You need to know Spanish. You need to be living in Panama, and you need to renounce your existing citizenship. So it's not something that everybody wishes to go through, but there will be information in the brochure if that is something that interests you. And of course, you can check with me if you have any other questions. Okay, and we get to the Friendly Nations visa. This is a residency visa that was created in 2012, and it's for the benefit of 50 countries only. Nationals of those 50 countries are allowed to come in and apply for residency, and they get the possibility of obtaining a work permit, which is something that you don't normally get in Panama with most residency visas. Unlike the US, where you get a green card that allows you to stay there and work, in Panama, your residency doesn't necessarily give you a work permit. Like the pensioner visa will not give you a work permit. This one does. And if that is something that may be of interest to you, then of course this would be the right choice. The investment is lower than the crazy one I just told you about that's only for people who have more money than time. And this one requires that you invest either $200,000 in real estate, or that you open a 3-year fixed term deposit account in a bank in Panama with a minimum investment of $200,000. And by the way, this is your money, so you get the interest on it, and at the end of the 3 years, you get your money back. Or you can roll it up and keep it in the bank generating more interest, whatever you decide to do with it. And the third option is that you get a job offer from a company that's operating in Panama. That will also give you access to this residency visa. And okay, this is another option I sometimes mention in case there is somebody in the audience that isn't within the 50 countries that are benefiting from the Friendly Nations visa. This one requires a little bit more. It requires an investment of $300,000 in real estate or in a CD. The only benefit of this one in comparison to the Friendly Nations is that this one allows you to do a mix as well. So you could have $100,000 in the bank and $200,000 in real estate, or $150,000 in the bank and $150,000 in real estate, and that would qualify you for this visa. The other one, the Friendly Nations, is really, really, really strict. If you buy property and it's $199,000, doesn't qualify you, okay? And they don't accept that you supplement it with a CD. This one you could supplement it if necessary. Okay, this is also a residency visa that is available for those of you who do not qualify for the other residencies. And basically, it's to attract professionals who have a degree from university in a profession that is not restricted or reserved for Panamanians. Unfortunately, there are a wide range of professions. All the liberal professions pretty much are reserved for Panamanians. That includes engineering, architecture, all the medical professions, and law, of course. We wrote the law, so lawyers can practice here, and accountants, etc. So if this is something that interests you, again, touch base with me, and I will give you the information, and if I don't have it, I will search it out for you. Okay, this visa, I'm not going to spend much money talking about it. This was once a great option, not so much now. If anybody is particularly interested in it, I can discuss it at our desk. This one, again, is not of great interest. It's only interested if you're really wanting to come and open a business that is going to be operating in Panama. Otherwise, it's not necessary. Now, dependents. Who can be dependents? On your residency application, you can have your spouse as your dependent. Common law marriages are not recognized in Panama. Same-sex marriages are not recognized in Panama. So in those cases, you would each need to apply separately. You can also, the principal applicant of the visa can bring his or her parents as dependents, no in-laws. Some wisdom there. And you can bring your children under the age of 25. And disabled relatives that are under your care, no matter what their age is, they can also come with you as dependents. So, and working in Panama, we discussed a little bit about this already, and I just wanted to get to the end so I can have some question and answer session.
There we go. Yep. Hi, Rainelda.
Hi.
If for the Friendly Nations visa permit, if you have a job offer, does that have to be a full-time, salaried job, or could you get a part-time job and that would suffice?
Well, it really needs to be a full-time job, a minimum salary of $1,000, and you do need to be, it needs to be a formal employment. You need to have an employment contract and an employment letter outlining the functions that you will be, working on, and the minimum salary of $1,000. So if, per month. That's per month, yes. So if you get a job, that is going to be part-time and they're going to pay you $1,000, then that may work. I would just not put that necessarily in the contract that it's only part-time, but it needs to be a work contract that it's limited to the time where you're going to have the work permit, or an indefinite one. Okay?
About halfway down on your right here, Rainelda.
Hey, I think that it might be self-explanatory regarding residency permit that you have to visit once every 2 years. And given the fact that it takes up to 6 months, this visit would not qualify as one of those visits, I presume. In other words, you couldn't apply right now for Panama residency and count this as your trip, and then 2 years from now you'd have to be here again.
No, the 2 years start counting from you receiving the permanent residency. During the application process, we will need you here normally for 2 weeks to apply, and then we will need you for another visit to come and get your permanent resident card if it's the pensioner visa, or to get your provisional visa if it's one of the friendly nations. And so that would not start counting just yet. Once you get your permanent residency visa, then you start counting the 2 years, okay? And I always stress that although Panama doesn't require you to come and stay for a specific period of time, I do suggest that at least a weekend, because I don't want you, I've had questions asked of me whether you can do it on a transit to another country. No, not really. You need to enter the country and ideally spend at least a night or two.
All the way back on your right, Rainelda.
Hi, Rainelda. I will be not receiving a pension until 2 years from now. So I was wondering if there are any possibilities for me at the age I'm at presently. I have my own income and everything to actually move and live in Panama without meeting any of the other qualifications.
Yes. Well, since it's only 2 years since you will start receiving your pension, there are interim options that you can use. One of them is the digital nomad visa. I don't like it. It's really complicated. It has a lot of paperwork and requirements and cost for nothing, because it only gives you 9 months with a possible extension of another 9 months. The easiest solution for an American or Canadian who are allowed to stay in Panama for 6 months as tourists is to come here, spend 6 months as a tourist, leave for a month, and come back again. And that will restart the clock. So you can do that for a couple of years. You're not going to have too many problems with that. The only thing is that you can only drive for 3 months. After you come into the country, you can only drive for the first 3 months with a foreign driver license. But other than those restrictions, that would be a good stopgap until you can get your pension and apply for the pensioner visa.
On your left, about halfway back, Rainelda.
Question. Does Social Security count as a pension? 1, 2, the spouse as derivative, as the derivative of the political or the principal applicant. If the spouse is getting a pension, does the spouse who's derivative also apply for a pensioner's permit, or is it, how's that done?
Okay, thank you. That's a great question, by the way. Thank you. Social Security, yes, it's the quintessential pension that we accept. So no problem. It could be also VA retirement. It could be teacher's pension. It could be whatever, a municipal pension, policeman, fire department, whatever. The spouse of the pension, of the person that is receiving the pension, comes in under the pensioner visa if they apply at the same time. So she or he will be receiving the pensioner visa as a permanent category at the end of the 6 months after application. Now, the only issue is that if the spouse is younger than 55 for women or 60 for men, they may not get the discounts in some cases, okay? Because just because people look at the date and they go, and you don't really add up to it yet. And when they issue the pensioner visa, the principal says pensioner, and then the dependent no longer says pensioner. It just says basically dependent of, okay?
Right in the middle here, Rainelda, about halfway back.
Hi, actually, my question is a follow-up to that question that you almost addressed. So if the pensioner is over 55 and the spouse is under 55, is it better to, does that mean that the spouse would not qualify for those additional benefits once they turn 55 and perhaps are better to wait? Let's say
No.
they're a year from turning 55?
No, they will get all the benefits once they turn 55 or 60, depending on the gender.
Perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
I had a question over here.
By the way, some vendors don't even look at that. They just see the residency and they just give you the, if you look a little older, a few gray hairs here and there, they'll give you the discounts anyway.
Right here, Rainelda.
Thank you. Once one acquires permanent residency under the pensionado program, are they able then to apply for a passport?
There was a time when we were not sure that was going to be able to happen because originally that wasn't the intention. But for the last 10 years or so, the policy of immigration has been that pensioners now receive the national ID card for residence, which is called a cédula, and that is the path to citizenship. So you could apply for Panamanian citizenship after 5 years of being permanent resident. But remember that citizenship in Panama is not just going over there and getting a passport. It's a long process, and you need to speak Spanish, you need to be living in Panama, and you need to renounce your or say in a sworn statement to the president that you will be renouncing your citizenship.
To acquire a passport, one needs to be a citizen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Dual citizenship, and I heard a question over there. Dual citizenship is only available for those that receive it by birth in Panama. Meaning if your child of U.S. parents is born in Panama, that child is Panamanian and U.S. citizen.
Here, Rainelda.
Thank you for all your information. You did mention veteran retirement. What about veteran disability payments?
Veteran disability payments do qualify for pensioner residency status, ideally if they're over 70%. Sometimes the VA disability letter states the percentage, and less than 70%, I have never tried. So, you know, we would be experimenting. But anything above 70 would definitely be acceptable.
Just in back here, Rainelda.
What exactly the age to qualify for a pensionado program?
Okay. For the pensioner residency visa, if you're receiving a pension, age is not a requirement.
Oh, I see.
So, for example, if you're retired from the military, people normally retire from the military in their 40s, that would qualify you because it's a lifetime pension. That would qualify you for the pensioner visa. It's just going to be harder for you to get the discounts because people are going to look at you and say, you're not old enough. But
On your right, Rainelda.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is a secondary passport issue question.
Yeah.
If we're living here and have received as a resident, we're living here with residency, but not citizenship, then we still travel under our existing passport.
that is correct.
Okay.
Yes. And by the way, if you are living in Panama permanently and either you lose your passport or you need to renew it, the U.S. Embassy here can help you with that. So you don't need to travel back to the U.S. for that. Mm-hmm.